defining a constructor which takes one argument of type, gives conversion to that type, to your type. In our case, we can envision that for instance, this latest test that we did with comparison operators. On one side, we're using string. On the other side, we're using string literal. But look that our operators were overloaded for two strings. So interestingly, compiler allowed us to use string literal in place of string. And the reason for this is that we have a constructor. Okay, so we have a constructor that takes pointer to a constant character, and that's exactly the type that matches this constructor. So what compiler does, and it's the technique is called conversion by constructor. So the compiler is trying to do its best to find best match to this expression that involves this test for equality, equal operator, right? So the constructor compiler does in this instance, it finds the appropriate constructor. So what it does, it essentially constructs a string here. Okay, so it just thinks that this would be the best match for what we're trying to do. And then, of course, this comparison will work pretty well with this operator, because now we have one string and another string that we just constructed, and so that's the operator that compiler is using. So this technique is called conversion by constructor, and we were using it quite successfully. If this type of a rule did not exist, or if we did not have the constructor that matches the conversion from pointer to constant characters, if we did not have this constructor available, then we would have to this would fail, right? And we would have to provide additional operators such as this, right? So I'm not going to save this, but just to demonstrate that we would have to provide something like this. And so that would be the way to deal with this if we would still want to permit comparison between C-style string and our own type string. So I'm not going to retain this copy, but this is the idea that that type of constructor that we did use. So I'm just going to eliminate this from my code here. But the idea is that we can, whenever we use C-style strings, compiler has no problem trying to match it with our own strings, as in case with our operators and in some other places when we're making these select string function calls, we're just using C-style strings, but they're all getting converted to the string class, the instance of the string class. Its constructor is invoked, and then the function is invoked with using the temporary objects of type string. So this is quite useful and important thing to know, that is just goes together. So constructors typically are considered to be used together with the set of rules that we're trying to design when we add overloaded operators to be available with our classes. So sometimes this technique may not work very well, or could be at least confusing, so it could create some mix-up and misunderstanding here. So an example, a class string, and we allow constructor that takes an integer, and it's pretty innocent idea. Let's construct a string with maybe this many spaces, right? So the user will provide an argument to this constructor, and the string will be constructed. Let's say this is 10, right? So we'll create a string with 10 spaces. The content of the string will be 10 spaces. So we can come up with ideas like this, and it's fine. So it's like set initial size for the string. Then let's take a look at the use of this type of class. So here string s1 and gets integer 4, so the string gets constructed from maybe it just gets four spaces. Okay, so that's what happens here. Now then we use this in this manner. We say string s2 equals 4. So this becomes a little bit confusing. It looks like what we're doing here is that we're somehow taking 4 and converting it to a string. So maybe it's going to be converted to a string that contains this character 4. But in reality, this constructor is going to be invoked. So this becomes confusing. And then there's even more, more confusion when things like functions return integers, right? What we're allowing here, we're allowing an integer to be returned as a string. So this is really just like really confusing. So function designed to return a string returns an integer, and it works because this constructor is present here and gets in the way. So how do we solve this confusion? If we're anticipating these types of cases, we want to use this keyword and declare this constructor with keyword explicit in front of it. Then you can no longer use expressions like this. You have to be using the string constructor syntax explicitly in your code. So this is just something that you need to be aware of. So sometimes adding constructors like this could put you in a little bit of confusing situations where the use of this constructor sometimes is okay, but oftentimes becomes really confusing.